Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into something that is, frankly, at the very core of how we build and use the internet, web accessibility. We're going to be drawing on a really fantastic personal essay by Aditi Bhandari for Open News to figure out why this matters so much. All right, let's just jump right in with a question that gets to the heart of it all. Is making the web accessible just an optional extra? You know, a nice-to-have skill you tack on if there's time? Or is it a fundamental, absolutely non-negotiable part of building anything for the web? This very question came from a real-life experience, and it really sets the stage for everything we're going to talk about. So I want you to picture this. It's 2015. Aditi Bhandari, a journalism student, is in this 300-level computer science class. The lecture for that day, UX design and web accessibility. But here's the thing. The room was half empty. Attendance was way down compared to other days. And for Aditi, this wasn't just, fewer people today. It sparked a real, deep sense of concern. And this question she asked herself really gets to the core of the problem, right? I mean, as a journalism student, your entire mission is to get stories out to as many people as you can. But that half-empty classroom, it was like a spotlight on this massive blind spot. If we're building these amazing interactive stories, these essential online tools, what's the point if a huge chunk of the population can't even use them? You know, this concern doesn't just stay in the classroom. It follows you right into the professional world. When people push for their companies to actually invest in accessibility, they're often told to lead with a very specific set of arguments, usually ones that focus on the bottom line. I bet you've heard some of these before. It's the standard pitch, right? Hey, it'll boost your SEO, or pust, you'll avoid getting sued. Or maybe the business angle. You can tap into a whole new market. They even try to frame it as a universal benefit, reminding us that we're all just temporarily able-bodied. These are the classic lines you use to convince the people holding the purse strings. And look, all of those points are totally valid. They're true. But they all kind of dance around the most important, the most fundamental reason of all. It is the right thing to do. Full stop. This isn't really about business metrics. It's about the basic human responsibility we have when we create things for other people. And we're not talking about some small niche group here. We're talking about more than 1 billion people around the world who live with a disability. To put that in perspective, India's 2011 census alone counted 26.8 million disabled people. These aren't edge cases. This is a massive part of our global audience, and their needs are just consistently not being met. Okay, so knowing it's the right thing to do is one thing. That's the theory. But the real aha moment, the point where it all becomes truly real, that often comes from somewhere much more personal. For Aditi, it came from the experience of hearing her own inaccessible work out loud. And the tool that made that happen was a screen reader. Now, if you're not familiar, a screen reader is basically software that reads the content of a computer screen out loud. It's an absolutely essential tool for blind and low vision users to navigate the web. You might have heard of VoiceOver, which is pre-installed on Apple devices, or the free NVDA for Windows. So here's the simple experiment she ran. She made a basic web page. On it, there was a logo, and that logo was also a link to go back to the homepage. Then she tested it using Apple's VoiceOver, but she tried it 3 different ways to see what would actually happen. Now this is where it gets really eye-opening. See how a tiny, invisible bit of code changes everything? In the first test, with no alt text at all, the screen reader just spits out the garbled file name, image_logo_final.png. I mean, what is a user supposed to do with that? Totally useless. In the second test, with a blank alt attribute, it's a little better. It just says link. Okay, but a link to where? It's still a mystery. And then, finally, with that descriptive alt text, the explainer homepage, the user knows exactly what it is and what it does. That's the difference between a dead end and a usable website. And an experience like that does more than just teach you a technical lesson. It kicks off a much deeper journey. You start moving beyond just learning how to fix lines of code, and you start really rethinking the whole idea of disability itself.
So the old way of thinking, the one a lot of us grew up with, is that a disability is some kind of condition a person has. It's a personal deficit. But the new understanding, the one that really powers the work of accessibility, is that disability is an experience that's created when there's a mismatch between a person and their environment. It's the world that's disabling them, not the other way around.
Microsoft's Inclusive Design Toolkit has this brilliant way of explaining this. Just look at this example here, focusing on the sense of touch. A permanent impairment could be someone who only has one arm. A temporary one, maybe you broke your arm and it's in a sling for a few months. And a situational one, that could be a new parent trying to use their phone while holding a baby. Now here's the key. When you design something to be easily used with one hand for that person with the permanent disability, you automatically make it better for the person with the broken arm and the new parent. Everyone benefits.
This quote from the essay really just stops you in your tracks. For those of us who are not disabled, it is an incredible privilege to treat accessibility as just an interest or another skill to learn. For millions of people, it's a daily, immediate, non-negotiable necessity. And that fact puts a huge responsibility on all of us who create things for the web.
Okay, so the stakes are high, and honestly, they're only getting higher. And I get it, that can feel a little overwhelming. But here is the good news. You can start making a real difference right away. This doesn't have to be some huge, scary, insurmountable task. And the urgency has never been greater. The COVID-19 pandemic has literally been called a mass disabling event. We have millions of COVID long haulers who are now dealing with things like chronic fatigue and brain fog, which makes navigating a complicated website absolutely exhausting. And think about this. At the peak of the pandemic, vital health information from places like the CDC was being shared as images that were completely inaccessible to screen readers. Our world depends on digital access now more than ever. So where do you start? Right here. These are simple, tangible things anybody can do. Add good descriptive alt text to your images. Check your colors to make sure there's enough contrast. Use proper HTML. If you make a video or audio file, include captions and a transcript. Make sure your buttons are big enough for a finger to easily tap. See, these aren't massive engineering overhauls. They're small, manageable habits you can build into your work right now. And that brings us right back to the beginning and to our final question on this slide. A question for everyone listening. It doesn't matter if you're a journalist, a developer, a designer, or if you just post on social media. Your work reaches people, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. So we want to leave you with this to think about. Who are you leaving out?